Get ready. Well, I just scooted the table and shot it at the table. No, not a trip, not Felix. This lady at the Star Trek things that had a tray. It said adopt a tribble. And little tiny ones in there. You can have one.
I want to adopt a full girl.
Yeah.
Where'd he go? It's go time. We're missing Clinton.
I thought I had 2 minutes. Oh, goodness.
We have no minutes.
It's go time.
Okay, it's go time. So,
Oh no. We got plenty to disturb us. Don't worry about it. Yeah, we're already disturbed.
okay. I'm here. Thank you. Well, welcome everyone, and welcome to the Technorama Comedy4Cast and Friends live show from DragonCon 2019.
Yay!
I am one of your co-hosts for this event. My name is Clinton, and I do the show Comedy4Cast. And if you're not familiar with what goes on at this panel, this is kind of where we take Technorama and Comedy4Cast and put them in a blender and come up with a delicious comedy smoothie.
How the sausage is made.
Yes, so hopefully you're not allergic to any of the ingredients that we're going to be doing this evening. Every year at this time, I start off by talking about things that have happened over the past year. And one of the things I want to share with everyone is I came up with a great new thing over the past year. Sometimes you just don't, the normal cuss words, shall we say, just don't cut it. And you want to have something a bit different. And you know, you've tried your fracks and your frells and your Felger carbs and all that type of thing. Well, try this instead. The next time something really ticks you off like that, go, oh, Hickenlooper. You know, just, you know, I really Hickenloopered that up. You know, so just consider it. But this year I wanted to talk more about what's been going on with Comedy4Cast over the past year than anything else. People may know that I've done another podcast today in April event, and this year's was called Escape from Pasta Place. And it deals with the age-old question is how does a group of people trapped in a building 1,000 feet suspended in the air get out? I know it's a trope, but I did the best I could with it. One of the things that was concerning to me is as I was finishing up the scripts for it, a movie came out called Escape Room. Now, the thing that was worrisome is that essentially half of my story deals with escape rooms. And I was in a big panic about it, and then I said, well, let's see what happens. So I have a question. How many people here remember that there was a movie called Escape Room that came out this year? How many people saw the movie called Escape Room that came out this year? Okay, so I think I was really needlessly worrying about that one. But I do tend to do that. I worry about stuff. But then other things I don't worry about at all because I was doing the script. And when I got to the end, I was trying to come up with the list of the voices that needed to be for the show. And I came up with 41 speaking roles. And an important point, first of all, I want to mention that pretty much in an audio drama, every role is a speaking role. You know, I don't think that there are any, if you have a mime, don't worry about it. But so fortunately, I had a bunch of podcasting friends that were able to pitch in and help with this. Some of the people in the room here, some people that I met through the Discord group that was set up for the track this year. And that cut the list way down, so Bonnie and I only had to do 21 of the 41 characters between us. It was a big help. But, you know, I do that when I'm writing the scripts ahead of time. I don't really think about the consequences. I just want to go get the idea on paper, and we'll deal with the rest of it later on. One of the examples of that is, I don't know if you're familiar with a character that I do called Lenny Treetop. Lenny Treetop basically talks like this, and basically this is him like speed talking. He's that way.
Slow down there, buddy.
So I wrote a line in the plot that said 5 words. Lenny Treetop does rap song. And then I had to figure out how to make that happen. So actually, if you listen to chapter 14 of Escape from Pasta Place, you will hear Lenny Treetop do an original rap song. And that's the other thing that I did this year, is that I've been using stock music up to this point. I will buy music and play it on the show. But in the back of my head, I always thought that, well, I'd really like to have the music just belong to Comedy4Cast. And you can't do that with stuff that you license. It belongs to somebody else, and you're essentially renting it. So I've got 41 characters to do. I've got to write a rap song for Lenny. Let's also start writing all the music for Comedy4Cast at the same time. So now when you listen to an episode of Comedy4Cast, all the music that you hear is something that I wrote. It's not the Beatles, it's not Mozart, it's not even Cars for Kids, but it's something that just belongs to me, and I can use it however I want to. So the last session that was in here was one about audio production. If you're thinking about doing an audio show, it can be a lot of work, but you can do an awful lot of stuff in a relatively short amount of time. So don't be discouraged about that hill going up about doing something. Take it bits and pieces at a time. Like, I didn't start doing the entire podcast with voices, with music, with everything at once. But since I've been doing the show now for going on 15 years, you add a little bit at a time, and you build up a network of people that you can lean on for various things. I was having a conversation with Pamela actually at a convention earlier this year, where I was discussing, well, if I have technical questions about things with science, because I actually used some science in one of my stories, how do I go about that? And so she became a resource. Well, talk to me, and if I can maybe connect you up with someone who will help out with that. So don't ever be discouraged about starting something, because you can just keep building on it. And I think that was the main thing. I wanted now with this kind of this coffee clatch format, I wanted to really get into a bit of that. But for right now, all that said, I want to turn things over to the other half of the smoothie, and that would be my good friends, Mr. Chuck Tomasi and Mr. Kreg Steppe of Technorama.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for that enthusiastic welcome.
And if you're not familiar with Technorama, one of the things we do is stories that most other podcasts probably don't cover. Sometimes it's odd bits of news and science, and sometimes it's just odd bits that are left on the cutting room floor. In fact, one of my favorite websites, Oddity Central, usually has a wealth of things about things. Oh, the Mexican guy who said he was going out for cigarettes and went to the FIFA World Cup in Russia. So I don't know how you get away with that. We found just such a story that was released a couple of days ago that we'll bring up for you to give you a sampling of what we do. And find the right tab. This one is starring Mark Hamill. Blue Milk is way better at Disney World. Mark Hamill, along with other Star Wars alumni, attended the grand opening of the new Galaxy's Edge theme park at Walt Disney World in Florida earlier this summer. He tried out all the attractions and had a good time, but this picture shows him trying the Blue Milk at the park, and it looks like, well, he's looking for a way to describe it.
He looks excited about it.
How was the milk, and how did it compare with the blue milk he drank on set? He said, note to self, remember you're on camera and Disney signs your paychecks. Honestly, though, the warm, oily, sickly sweet milk dyed blue from the movies was gag-inducing. Whilst this frosty non-dairy drink tastes like a yummy fruit smoothie. Did you read ahead, Clinton?
Yeah, no, I didn't.
Smoothie theme continues.
Mark and I are in the same wavelength, constantly.
You're trying to spoil our part of the show.
Hamill was talking about the milk he drank on Tatooine, of course, in first Star Wars film. He says the green milk he drank on The Last Jedi was much better. Even if the scene was somewhat distasteful, it was apparently just colored coconut water, which some of us may find distasteful. So, love the picture. That's the kind of stories. Any thoughts on, Kreg, would you try the blue milk at Disney World?
I don't know. I've had blue milk before, so I've been a little gun shy to try it again.
Did you make your own?
Yeah, I made my own.
When you were a kid, was it just milk with blue food coloring?
No, it changed on its own.
So it was going to become blue cheese.
Yes, it was on its way to cheese. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Clinton, any thoughts on blue milk?
All I know is that I think it's interesting that they distinguish this with Disney World, because those of you out there know that Galaxy's Edge opened at Disneyland a couple of months ago, and the milk, the colored milk, is extremely expensive, and apparently the people that drank it were extremely upset that they paid an extremely lot of money to buy that stuff because it didn't taste very good. So my guess is if Mark likes it, they've changed the formula, and so I might be willing to try it, although knowing that they do sign his paychecks, I'm not really that certain that that's how it's going down.
Although what Disney's paying him, I'm sure he can swallow a lot.
Yes, exactly.
True. Becomes fear factor at that point.
Yeah, that's right, fear factor.
Bonnie, any thoughts on blue milk?
No.
Goes well with your jacket.
That's right.
And my Comedy4Cast t-shirt.
Oh, look at that promotion right there. Get a ding for that one.
Wow.
All right. With that story, we'll move on, and you can find others on our website.
Okay, so I wanted to mention as well that because I know that these are Charles's tables from his house, I made a point. I'm sure everyone has done this, right?
Wait a minute. It is?
I brought a coaster that I put underneath my water. So there you go. Don't want to leave little rings, although this would leave little ovals. Oh, there we go.
It's not Charles's carpet.
It's not his floor. It's okay. All right, let's move on, shall we? Ignore that. This is where my wife just shakes her head and goes, and I have to live with him all the time.
I do.
Note to self, more sight gags.
Yeah, it works great on an audio podcast, believe me. And speaking of my lovely wife, one of the characters that we do on a regular basis on Comedy4Cast is the owner of the Venus Arms Hotel and Towers, but she's better known as the owner of the Little Wicker Basket Company. And of course, I'm speaking about Miss Abby Fallmacher.
Yay!
Hello. I'm Abby Fallmacher, owner of the Little Wicker Basket Company. Little Wicker Baskets. They're everywhere. And whether you're looking for a basket delicate enough to hold all your autographed celebrity photos, or strong enough to use as a battering ram as you try to plow your way through the hotel habit trails, we have what you're looking for. As you may know, every year I take this opportunity to announce a new product here at DragonCon. This year is no exception. But this product is a little complicated. So I asked my front desk clerk Giles from the Venus Arms Hotel and Towers to invite leading economist Kaplan Spellman here to help out.
Oh, I think I misheard you, Miss Fallmacher.
What do you mean, Giles? Where's Kaplan Spellman?
Well, I thought you said Cap the Bellman.
You mean?
Oh, hey, this place looks an awful different than the last time I was here. Didn't there used to be a skylight back there? And a swoopy over there? That's a funny word, isn't it? Skylight.
Giles?
I think I'll leave you two to it.
All right. I am a strong, independent woman. I can do this. Today, I am announcing the latest product to come out of Little Wicker Basket's research labs, Basket Bucks. That's right, people. We're taking cryptocurrency to a whole new level.
Well, I hope it's not too high. I get vertigo real easy. Once it happened when I stepped on a gum wrapper, and the darn thing was in my pocket. How are you?
This is the part where Spellman was going to help me explain what makes Basket Bucks different.
Well, why don't you explain it to me? Pretend like you're talking to some average Joe. Wait, am I Joe? Let's see. Hello, Joe! Guess not, I didn't answer.
All right. Well, Cap, imagine a world where you never need to carry cash again.
I do that now. You'd be surprised how many places will let you write a check if you just stand at the counter and stare at them long enough.
Well, with Basket Bucks, you don't even have to write checks.
Is this a credit card offer? Save your breath. I already have one.
And pretty soon I'll have enough points for a flight to Hawaii. Or almost enough for a slice of pizza at the cart out in the lobby.
Yes, I see.
A plain slice, of course, not pepperoni. Let's not go crazy now.
No, it is not a credit card, and it's not a loan either.
Oh, good. I've nearly paid off my college debt. Just 35 more years to go.
Basket bucks are a virtual currency. It grows in value because it's backed by the scarcity of a virtual resource.
Oh, like a YouTube post with no negative comments?
In this case, basket bucks get value because they are indexed against the number of rare little wicker baskets in select video games, namely World of Warcraft, Craft of World War, Craft of the War of the Craft Worlds, and The Sims Little Wicker Baskets in Expansion Pack.
Wow, I'm impressed. Tell me more.
Oh, well.
I'm messing with you. I have no idea what you're talking about.
All you need to know is that once you have basket bucks, you can use them just like cash at any business that accepts them.
Uh-huh. And who takes these basket bucks?
Well, naturally, we're just starting out, and so not many places will Jamba Juice. You can spend them at Jamba Juice.
Tasty. But can I use them to buy little wicker baskets?
Heavens, no. What kind of a fool do you think I am? Oh, Hickenlooper. Maybe this idea wasn't ready to come out of the lab yet.
Well, especially if it hasn't washed its hands.
Well, it looks like it's time to get back to the Sunday afternoon memorial service anyway.
Well, I hope it's not for me. Maybe it's for Joe.
This is Abby Fallmacher reminding you to buy little wicker baskets wherever you shop for anything. Little wicker baskets. They're everywhere.
The end. And thank you, Bonnie. And I got a note, I got an email sent to me a while ago saying you don't thank Bonnie enough on the show. So I'm thanking you right now. Thank you for all the work you do on Comedy4Cast, doing all the voices that you do, and putting up with me while I'm doing the show.
Well, the voices are the fun part.
I see. I think that's the point at which I move on. So
I think they call that a burn.
I think so too.
Yeah.
I can put it out with the carpet, I think, at this point.
All right, this is the part of the show we call On This Day in History, and we're going to roll the music, I hope. I don't know where the music's going to come out, but it'll be fun either way. Apparently here.
Yeah.
On this day in history. This is the 244th day of the year in the Gregorian calendar, and there are 121 days remaining in 2019. It was on this day... Oh, I should change it. Yeah. It was on this date in 1804 that Juno, one of the largest asteroids in the main belt, is discovered by German astronomer Carl Ludwig Harding.
And it was on that same date in 1859, one of the largest coronal mass ejections were ever recorded, later to be known as the Carrington event.
Not bad. He's off to a good start.
Yep.
The armored cruiser Georgios Avrov is commissioned into the Greek Navy. It now serves as a museum ship on this date in 1911.
And also on this date in 1914, the last known passenger pigeon, a female named Martha, dies in captivity in the Cincinnati Zoo. Oh, so sad.
Hey, it's not all happy news. It was on this date in 1934 that the first Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer animated cartoon, The Discontented Canary, probably mad about that pigeon thing,
I know.
is released to movie theaters.
Too soon. And in September 1st, 1952, The Old Man and the Sea, the Pulitzer Prize-winning novel by Ernest Hemingway is first published.
That's why I love this part of the show.
Par for the
Also
course.
on September 1st, 1972, in Reykjavik, Iceland. Oh, he should have had that one, right?
Yeah. Dodged a bullet there.
Bobby Fischer beats Russian Boris Spassky to become the world chess champion, and I need to clean my screen because I spit on it now.
I got some water here.
Yeah, I was going to say, wait, back up. And that same date in 1947, the SR-71 Blackbird sets and holds the record for flying from New York to London on the first time of an hour and 54 minutes and 56.4 seconds at the speed of 1,435.587 miles per hour. That is 2,310.353 kilometers.
Just let it go.
Oh, shut up.
On September 1st, 1979, the American space probe Pioneer 11 becomes the first spacecraft to visit Saturn when it passes the planet at a distance of 21,000 kilometers or 13,000 miles.
It was also on this date in 1982 that the United States Air Force Space Command is founded. Yay.
So there's much rejoicing apparently in the audience.
Yay.
Happy birthday goes out on this date too. German physicist and academic Hilda Hünschen, born on this date in 1919.
And Boxcar Willie, the American singer-songwriter and guitarist, was born 88 years ago today.
Is he still alive? Anybody know Boxcar Willie?
I don't know.
Is he here at the con?
Yeah, he's upstairs cosplaying.
Also born on this same date in 1939, American actress, comedian, screenwriter, and producer Lily Tomlin.
Yeah. And also turning 73 today is Manx English singer-songwriter and producer Barry Gibb.
I'll be doing some of his karaoke later this evening.
Oof.
Cuban-American singer-songwriter and actress Gloria Estefan was born on this date in 1957.
And also born on this same date in 1961, American captain, pilot, and astronaut Christopher Ferguson.
That's the way it was on this date in history for September 1st, 2019.
Yay!
Hey,
History!
Worth rejoicing.
That's right.
a lot happened on this day. A lot happened on this day. And I'd like to take a moment right here to remind people about Dragon Con's official charity this year, the American Heart Association. Dragon Con is going to match up to $100,000 raised during the convention, and you can donate by texting AHA 2019 to 44321. So let's make sure that we get those donations in and that Dragon Con gets to pay out some of that money. All right, next up, we have a couple of guests this evening, and my first guest is no stranger to many of you here. Amy Murphy and her husband, Barry, are here often at the live shows.
Yay, Barry.
And Amy is the author of a number of works, most notably the Allies and Enemies series, which has twice, Amy's going to correct me if I'm wrong on any of this stuff, but has been twice nominated for a Dragon Award in military science fiction here at Dragon Con. This series has also been a finalist in the Kindle Book Awards, and book 5 of the series is now out with book 6 on the way. That's on the way, as well as the audiobook version of book 2. I mean, there is one of already book 1. It's not like skipping book 1 for an audio version. So please welcome to the stage, Amy J. Murphy. Hello, hello, hello. Long time no see. Hello. Oh, is your microphone working?
I don't know.
It's not working.
Is that on? Is that on? Maybe that's the thing you spilled
Subtle.
water on.
No, it's over here. Mine one should
Okay.
be.
Hello.
There we go. Yay! Thank you. So the last time I interviewed you on the show was back in 2016, and at that time you had your first 3 books out, and now you're on book 6 of your trilogy. So I wanted to ask you, how much credit do I get for, mentioning that you probably would do more than 3 books?
Oh, I'll give you all the credit for that.
Okay.
Absolutely.
But this is interesting because you've been writing now 6 stories in this series. Do you want to talk a bit about what Allies and Enemies is?
So, in the writing business, you got this thing called the elevator pitch, and the way I preface it is Farscape that meets Black Hawk Down, and then always that leads into a conversation is, what's Farscape? Well, this is an audience that can appreciate that, I mean, these are the same folks that made, Firefly happen and everything. But so it has a very strong military science fiction element, but at its heart is it's a space opera story that really has to do with character relationships and how they change over time. And I have to say, just being included in military science fiction, that is really a great place to be. It's always one of those things for science fiction is to apply labels to your genre or your subgenre. It just kind of makes that shorthand work. It's got a lot of that ensemble kind of character cast to it. There are various storylines, and it's really expanded since the first book in the series, which basically told the two different stories and how they come together for two different main characters. One, a soldier, a female soldier that's basically born and bred to be a soldier, and another one who is a scientist who ends up in a world that she never was meant to be part of, and making some revelations about her background that she was never supposed to find out. And they come into the end meeting up with each other and having some really negative consequences that filter through for the rest of the series, books 2 through 6. So there's a time jump for most of the part when you get to the 4th, 5th, and 6th book in the trilogy. That is still dealing with ramifications down the road.
Now, when you're writing this series, at this point, these books are self-published, but when you get to the end of book 4 or book 5, do you feel you have to, for the audience, wrap things up, and then you just have an idea in the back of your head? Are you putting hooks in the story? Because as you're writing these out, you could just at any point go, I think I'm done. And do you feel like everyone has to have a satisfying ending unto itself?
So I guess the short answer is yes. When you're writing the book, when I'm writing these books, I do have an overall picture. So there is the larger scope of the story where everyone is meant to end up at the end, and how the people get there is what composes each of the books. There are people that write in series format, which means that you could pick it up and be only modestly confused if you accidentally pick up book 2 or book 3, and you'll fill in the blanks later because the exposition is built in. Well, the way my series is created is, or if you want to think of it, it's more like a 600,000 word novel that ends up having to be in these various books. And there is some amount of exposition at the beginning to kind of catch everybody up, but I'm writing to an audience that's kind of already invested in the storyline.
Right. We had the discussion at the end of a panel earlier today that was about Discovery, and someone was really upset that every episode of Discovery was not a story unto itself. And I said, well, that's a changing landscape that I think now television has changed to. It's kind of a bingeable thing, and you just slide from one thing into the next thing.
I think that's precisely, you elegantly put what I was trying to say, is that is the model now, especially people that my cohorts in self-publishing, the model is the binge model. I know some people that can write a book in a month or less than a month, and they just churn them out, and that is the model for entertainment, for the consumer end of entertainment. Everyone is used to that binge model, and so that's the way your worlds are created. So if you look at traditional publishing, you're going to have a year, 2 years between when the book and the next book in the series is going to come out. And that person, as your reader, has moved on, and you kind of have to refresh their memory, and you have to make it so that someone can get introduced to your series if they accidentally pick up book 2. So the model for my writing is more of that binge scenario.
And these are fairly long books, and we've had discussions about the fact that both of us have issues with being easily distractible, where we have to find ways to get ourselves to sit down and actually write. And when I'm writing, say, podcast a day, I have to turn around 20 to 30 episodes of something, get the scripts finished, get it recorded, and get it out on a daily basis for the month of April. And if people follow me on Twitter or Instagram or any place, they'll see me at Dunkin' Donuts all the time. And if you're wondering what that's about that my ADD, which is actual ADD, not the pun of it, is that by going to Dunkin' Donuts, I'm not distracted, that I can't just get up and do anything I want to do. I'm now locked into, I'm sitting in a place, and all that's in front of me is my laptop to write. Now, you have similar problems, but you deal with them in a slightly different way by a technique that's been developed.
Right. I was diagnosed with ADHD very late in life. For me, it was kind of an aha moment because it explains a lot about my childhood and about how things went for me in school. And at this point in my life, I've already had developed these coping mechanisms. All my shorthand for things. It's why I do things a certain way. It's like, you have this, that's the way you buy groceries, that's the way you organize your morning, because otherwise you're going to go off the rails and get distracted by something. Women are typically diagnosed with ADHD a lot later because generally the stereotype is for younger boys because everyone thinks of the hyperactivity part, the physical part of it. So for women, it has to do more that quote unquote daydreamer quality. It's the inattentiveness of it. So one of the techniques I have realized for writing has to do with it's called the Pomodoro technique. And I learned of it from a YouTuber. She does a YouTube called How to ADHD. She is absolutely adorable. I cannot remember the gal's name. I'm sure it's an easy thing to Google. But she talked about one of those of many techniques about organizing your time. And the reason it is called the Pomodoro technique is because it's like Italian for tomato. And they're just talking about this little kitchen timer. It was a plastic kitchen timer. It looks like a tomato. And you give yourself X amount of time, that is your required butt-in-chair time to work on the project at hand. When the timer goes off, you get 5 minutes to go run around and, get the wiggles out or however you want to call it, or do the thing that's distracting to you. And then after that timer goes off again, that brief break, you go back to the button-chair time. And they call them a Pomodoro if you do 5 in a row or 4 in a row or however it works for you. And it's customizable. It's inexpensive because everybody has some form of a timer, and what works, and you can have a goal for your day. I want to do 4 or 5 Pomodoros that day, and it helps you with your productivity. And some days you'll have horrible days where you only get 1 done or 2 done, or maybe you realize that your attention span can only be 17 minutes or instead of 23 minutes. And it has been a useful tool. And I use this thing called a parking lot method. If I have, while I'm writing something, another idea that pops into place, and it's that urge to jump out of what I'm doing, to the next thing. I have an index card, and it's a parking lot, and I write down on the parking lot what that idea is, so I remember it, and it has a place, but then I can go back to the task at hand.
Excellent, excellent. And I wanted to touch on that because I feel like it's more of a common problem than a lot of people realize, and I know there are people that are probably listening that go, yes, I can understand. Yes, I have that problem when I'm trying to work on a project, whether it's writing or something else, and to learn techniques and say it's, just research, it's okay, and different techniques are going to work differently for different people. So before we move on to the second part of our interview, I want to make sure we get in the plug. So how can they find out about the Allies and Enemies? That could be a different story altogether.
That's entirely different.
Clinton, that's my shtick.
Yes.
Leave it alone.
Sorry.
Yet still part of military science fiction.
But not only that, you also have other things coming up. So where can they find out about everything that you're working on?
All right. Well, I have a website. It's www.amyjmurphy.com. But my books, my series are wide, as we say in the lingo. So not only on the big monster Amazon, it's on Barnes & Nobles, Kobo, Google Play, Smashwords, iTunes, and There's like another one. I always forget it. Anyway, everywhere. So even if you go to my website, you can find where all of them are located. The first book in the series, Allies and Enemies Fallen, which is book 1, is free. It's what we call perma-free. So any of those places online, you could find it and download it. And if you like it, it is your gateway drug into the series. And I also have a free novelette that's available from visiting my website that's also based in the universe. I am also going to be writing nonfiction about the practice of trying to be a creative writer with ADHD and the tools and techniques available to you as a writer.
Excellent, excellent. Well, it's been great talking to you, Amy, but before you leave, I'm going to rip off a segment from Wait, Wait, Don't Tell Me. I'm allowed because I've been podcasting longer than they have. That's how it works. And this segment I'm going to be called I Think You're Confused. And that's because you write military science fiction, so I think it would be great to ask you a few questions about a classic civilian science fiction masterpiece. Of course, I'm speaking about Armageddon. So if you get 2 of the 3 questions correct, you will win the lovely prize, your own VHS copy of Die Hard 2. So there you go. So here is your first question. And audience, if you want to be helpful, you feel free to jump in if you think you know the answers here.
Can we play?
Or give a little clues to Amy, perhaps?
No.
Yes.
Oh, we're eligible?
So in the movie, of course, Steve Buscemi plays the iconic role of Rockhound. Which of these is a true statement? A, Buscemi claims that the role was pitched to him as a heroic geologist. He says that after he was cast as Rockhound, all those sleazy characteristics were written into the script. Or was it B, when asked why he did the film, Buscemi said, "I wanted a bigger house"? Or was it C, Rockhound's line about sitting on 1 million pounds of fuel in a rocket built by the lowest bidder is a variant on an actual radio transmission by Mercury astronaut Alan Shepard just prior to liftoff? A, B, or C?
I know which one I want to be true, so I guess I'll go with C, because it's very clever.
Well, you are correct in a way because all 3 of them are correct.
Yay!
Question number 2. It's hard to imagine Armageddon without its signature song, I Don't Want to Miss a Thing. Of course, we all know that song. It's written by legendary hit writer Diane Warren, and the song was recorded by Aerosmith, of course. But Steven Tyler and the gang were not the producer's first choice to sing the song. Who among these was asked to record I Don't Want to Miss a Thing before Aerosmith got the gig? Was it A, the unsinkable Canadian, Celine Dion? Was it B, Mr. Nice Guy himself, Alice Cooper? Or was it C, boy band sensation O-Town? You're trying to picture all these people singing it, aren't you?
Right.
I don't
And
think-
I'm
I don't
I'm
think the answer is all
what's
3.
What's an O-Town? I don't know what that is. I'm going to Celine Dion.
You are correct. And all 3 of them have recorded songs written by Diane Warren, but yes, it was Celine Dion was going to sing that song originally. And the final question. At one point in the film, Harry Stamper, played by Bruce Willis, of course, refers to Dr. Ronald Quincy as Mr. Wizard. Why would this statement ultimately prove to be prophetic? Was it because A, in Glass, M. Night Shyamalan named Sarah Paulson's character, who works with Bruce Willis's David Dunn, Dr. Quincy? Was it B, Dr. Quincy was played by Jason Isaacs, who would go on to play Lucius Malfoy in the Harry Potter films? Or was it C, Mr. Wizard would become the code name for NASA's Near-Earth Asteroid Detection System?
Oh, C.
No, I'm sorry, it's B. It was Jason Isaacs. I had to watch the movie to make sure it's indeed true. It's a young Jason Isaacs. So Captain Lorca was involved with Armageddon. But that is 2 out of 3, and here is your copy
Oh my
of
goodness.
Die Hard 2. Amy Murphy.
Thank you. I don't know the VCR. Thank you.
Thank you. Now let's move on to Chuck and Kreg.
Yes, we need the screen back up there. So I have another news story, and Kreg said he put the deck together, but I haven't seen it yet, so we're going on blind faith that this news story, the visuals.
Now, I worked hard at putting this together, so just
Okay.
brace yourselves, kids.
That's not the visual yet. That's just the boot up screen for the TV. Wait for it. Okay, this is a story called Can Swap Space Solve System Performance Issues? Right? Okay, let's plug that in. Earlier this week, the Linux kernel mailing list, Artem S. Tashnikov, described a low memory scenario where the system will stall hard. You will barely be able to move the mouse pointer. Your disk LED will be flashing incessantly. I'm afraid, quote, I'm afraid I have bad news for the people snickering at Linux here, wrote Chris Seibneman, a sysadmin of the University of Toronto CS Lab. If you're running without swap space, you can probably get any Unix to behave this way under memory pressure. In the old days, this usually was not very much of an issue because system RAM was generally large compared to the size of the programs, and thus the amount of file-backed pages were likely to be in memory. That's no longer the case today. Modern large programs such as Firefox and its shared I'm trying to read a story here. Shared memory. That's no longer the case today. Modern large programs such as Firefox and its shared libraries can have significant amounts of file-backed code and data pages, in addition to their often large use of dynamically allocated memory, i.e. anonymous pages. A production engineer, now Facebook's Web Foundation team, wrote about experiencing similar issues years ago, and another company had disabled swapping when they replaced or reinstalled machines. These aren't any friends of yours, are they?
Oh, you're using the wrong power slide, sorry.
Oh, okay. Although I do like the worst kangaroo up there.
Yeah.
Leading to lots of pages from hosts that had to be dealt with. This week they wrote, I stand by my original position. Have some swap. Not just a lot, just a little. Linux boxes just plain act weirdly without it. This is not permissions to beat your machine silly in terms of memory allocation either. If you allocate all the RAM on your time machine, on the machine, you have screwed the kernel out of buffer cache it sorely needs. Back off. Put another way, disk I/O that isn't brutally slow costs memory. Network I/O costs memory, all kinds of stuff, and battery's getting low. Okay, we'll keep going. We're almost done. Hang on, kids, it gets better. All kinds of stuff costs memory. It's not just the RSS of your process. Other stuff you do needs space to operate. If you try to fill a 2 gig box with 2 gig of data, something's going to have a bad day. You have to leave room for the actual system to run, or it's going to grind to a stop. All right, that's the end of the story, but if you want to know what swap space is, you can read more about it. But I was really waiting for this masterpiece to come up. Thus the end of our story.
There you go.
And the audio audience is left to wonder what was going on.
That's right.
Okay.
All right. Now, we want to bring up Pamela Gay up here. Let me get this situated.
Who's doing much better cosplay than we had on the screen, apparently.
That's right. There you go.
Flip that around. We're good.
Here, come over here.
Here, unlock your phone.
All right.
You got the questions.
That's right.
So, Pamela, we've known you for quite some years, but for those who are listening who do not know who you are, give a quick elevator pitch.
I am a senior scientist at the Planetary Science Institute, where I run the CosmoQuest project that invites all of you to help us map other worlds. And thanks you for mapping 10 million rocks on Bennu. I am the co-host of the Astronomy4Cast podcast, and next week I am launching the Daily Space podcast.
Another
And
podcast?
I
Another
believe
podcast.
Astronomy4Cast is coming out of summer hiatus soon. Yes?
Yes, we're coming out of summer hiatus next week, and I just realized it's been 14 years since I was first on a show that you hosted.
It's been a while. It's been a long while.
That's right. It has been a long time. All right, so we thought we'd start with a real easy debate, kind of ease into things. So is Pluto a planet?
It's a classic planet. We'll go with classic
Okay, we'll
planet.
go with classic.
Classic planet. No, it's not like New Planet.
Well,
New
it's
Planet
not like
tastes
New
different.
Coke either. It's much better. It's much better.
Yeah, it just tastes better, right?
Yes.
All right. So, what are some of the stories that have captured your attention lately? I know you talk about a lot of stuff in the news, space news. So, what kind of things have really captured your attention lately?
So my favorite thing right now is we no longer know how old the universe is.
Okay.
Wait a minute. Did we vary from the 13.8 something?
Yeah,
billion years?
yeah. So
What changed?
Apparently, when you measure things using data coming from the early universe and you measure stuff with data from the rest of the universe, the two numbers don't match.
Is like the old data too old, or
Well-
what?
Divide by
Well,
2, carry over.
So when you try and measure the universe by looking at the rate at which it's expanding and working backwards to when it was no more, and when you try and understand the physics of the evolution of the universe, looking at the cosmic microwave background and artifacts that we can see in it, those two different lines of evidence used to beautifully overlap in their error bars, but as our data has gotten better, as our error bars have gotten smaller, the error bars have mutually excluded the two sets of data from one another. But the crazy thing is, all the early universe stuff seems to match, and the modern universe stuff seems to be consistent. And so there seems to be something fundamental in our understanding of either the universe or our data that is just slightly sideways. And to go from saying with so much certainty when the Planck data came out, the universe is, and this is the error bar, to now going, yeah, we have no idea. It's kind of awesome because science... When I was in middle school, I remember someone taunting me, "You think you know everything." And because I was a middle schooler, I thought the hot retort was, "No, but someday I will." And now I'm an adult, and I'm like, "No, I won't, but I'm going to keep trying." And yeah, we have we have vague ideas. We have vague ideas with error bars that don't overlap on how old the universe was, and this is awesome.
We wouldn't learn and grow if we didn't have questions.
Exactly, and anyone who says that science is stuck in its ways, no, it turns out that when it comes to the age of the universe and cosmology and how the universe is expanding, we keep going, holy expletive Batman, and rewriting the books.
It's like a
So
it's like a Tarantino film. There's a big twist at the end.
Oh yeah, always.
Yeah.
always.
Is the trend we're looking at a younger universe or an older universe?
I don't know. We are looking at a different universe. One of the numbers is higher. The other one's still at the 13.8-ish. And so we don't know where. All we know is the stars are still younger than the universe, for which I'm very grateful.
All right.
So, all right, shifting gears to another story, which this fascinated me. Of course, SpaceX has been really hot in the news lately.
Yeah.
Especially watching the rockets land, upright. The space hopper that they did the test with
Just a few days
just
ago.
a few days ago looked fantastic and looked like
Yes.
something out of a sci-fi movie in
Yes.
itself. Once they get that to a point when we are leaving Earth and going to Mars, do you think that we should actually be populating Mars?
So I have a lot of quandaries about that due to the latest methane results. What we are seeing is with the Mars Curiosity rover and with the trace gas measurements being made by the ExoMars spacecraft, they're finding that there's Mars being released on Mars seasonally, coming out when it's the summertime, and appearing near the surface in varying concentrations that vary with the temperature at the surface. So there's something on Mars that's producing methane. Now, this could be melting ice. This could be biologicals. And until we know with any degree of certainty whether or not there's a microbiome on Mars, I don't think we need to be sending humans, because that's how you get the Andromeda strain. And it's also, we need to understand this more before we go all colonial on it. We've had lots of problems with colonialism here on Earth. Let's not replicate those problems on other worlds.
Right. That makes sense to me, I guess.
But let's send scientists with scientific equipment who know how to do the whole forensics thing. Let's forensically investigate Mars for life very, very carefully after we figure out the radiation problems. We probably have a decade before we should even think about it.
You don't think we should just nuke the place and then move in?
Well, no,
Send a Genesis device? What?
Well, so if you want radiation, it's already not a great place because the sun's radiation can pass through its way too thin atmosphere.
Right.
And the stuff that they're talking about with nuking it is to just melt the water and create a thicker atmosphere. But the problem is, because there's no magnetic field, that
It's not going to hold.
it's not going to hold. It's going to get
Yep.
blasted away. So no, don't do silly things like that. It's a non-renewable resource. Also, don't get helium balloons on Earth. Also a non-renewable resource.
That's true. Yeah, Party Cito will tell you that. So, shifting gears once again to another story. And this kind of scares me a little bit, and I'm sure it scares a lot of other people, especially when you think about the implications of it happening. I've seen a lot of stories where they go, "Oh, we got an asteroid coming. It's going to be a devastating event."
We've been surprised recently.
Yeah, NASA's silent on the matter.
No.
So I'm curious what developments you may have heard to deter such an event, or the likelihood of something like that to happen.
So it is currently looking fairly unlikely that anything of a planet-destroying mass is going to come get us in our lifetimes. Now, what we don't know is what city destroyers are out there waiting to be determined. And this is one of the reasons that we're building the Large Synoptic Survey Telescope down in Chile. The telescope is currently delayed. I'm not going to make any bets on when it's going to first work, but once they get it up and going, it's going to be able to find everything visible from the southern hemisphere. And it's going to look long, it's going to look deep. It has a cadence of every 4 days. It will see its entire visible sky down to extraordinarily faint objects, and we'll be able to find, as long as it's not coming out of the northern hemisphere sky, anything waiting to destroy us soon.
Okay.
Now, when it comes to deterrence, we have a new problem that we hadn't anticipated. We've been working on figuring out deterrence for a while.
Sure.
The best option is you go out and you paint the thing white, and the sunlight pushes it away for you.
I've heard about that, yeah.
You have to find out kind of far out in advance. If you don't find out far enough in advance, people talk about going and mounting a motor on it. Now, we have a new problem we hadn't anticipated with that particular scenario. And the issue is the two near-Earth objects that currently are being studied by NASA's OSIRIS-REx mission, which I work on, or I'm a contractor on, and Japan's Hayabusa 2 mission, is both these asteroids appear to be piles of rubble. And if you've ever pushed on a loosely held together pile of stone, you know you can, if you do it right, reach inside. And if you mount an engine on one of these things, it might just sort of go through instead of moving the thing out of the way. So, yeah, we need to start thinking about how do we deter piles of gravel that are loosely held together by gravity. New problem. It's cool.
Yeah, and how you get a painter out there to come during the day when he says he's going to be there from 1 to 3.
And get the paint on sale at Home Depot. But did you catch that, Kreg? Hayabusa? Write that down.
All right.
It's going to come up again.
Yeah, Hayabusa. All right, so at this point, we're going to take a couple of questions from the audience. Now, whoever asks a question, we only got a couple of questions. I got some prizes for whoever asks. So, do we have a roving mic?
We have the roaming mic.
There's a cube.
Oh, the cube, that's right. Yeah. All right. So who has a question for Pamela?
Gary does.
Gary, of course.
Long-time listener.
Hi, Pamela.
Hi, Gary.
Hi. I've heard there's tardigrades on the moon. Should I be worried?
I love
You should have been on the
story.
Trek panel.
Okay, so tardigrades. If you've ever watched The Last Airbender, not the live-action movie, that is dead to me. The cartoon version, anime version, Appa. Now imagine Appa as a microscopic extremophile, and you have a real critter called a tardigrade or a water bear. Just like in the TV show Star Trek Discovery, these critters have the ability to shed all of the basically liquids out of their body, desiccate themselves, which means they get really, really dry, and go into a dormant state. Well, Space IL launched the first non-governmental attempt at landing on the moon. This was the Bereshit lander. It launched back in February, and on April 19th, attempted to land softly on the moon. Now, space is hard. And this mission was not put together by ESA, it was not put together by JAXA, it was not put together by, I just forgot the name of the Indian Space Agency, it was not put together by NASA, it was put together by a bunch of individuals, including a lot of young early career people who did amazing work in Israel, homegrown mission. And instead of landing softly firing retro rockets, it suddenly took a turn for the left and careened itself energetically into the surface. And on board for the ARC Foundation, they were carrying a whole bunch of really cool bits of humanity. They were carrying a digitized version of human DNA. They were carrying the Torah. And for reasons I have not figured out yet, they were carrying very much not digital tardigrades on purpose. Now, these things will catch a ride when they can, but they had a colony of 1,000 tardigrades that they took to the moon on purpose. Now, they are desiccated, they are dried out, they are waiting for water. So should you choose, you have the chance to reanimate tardigrades on the moon.
Sounds like an evil plan to me.
I think so.
Yeah.
I do think so.
All right, anybody else? All right, wait, hold on, right over here.
I know you.
Y'all can catch up later.
Hi, my name's Chris. I came in late. With a lot of the discussion in rocket propulsion and, going from point A to point B, there's less in the news about actual problem solving and habitation, such as radiation issues, people not going insane from the trip, things of that nature. Do you have any thoughts or feelings on that make the trip worth doing, to where people land and they're still sane?
So the one person I know who was working on the case of human psychiatry for the International Space Station, recently his team was made smaller by at least him. So I know some of the people who had been doing it aren't anymore, and that makes me exceedingly sad. I don't know what's going on because, as you said, it's not in the news right now. The big problems that are currently trying to be solved is how the expletive do we meet the president's 2024 deadline to put a woman on the moon. And when you're building with the lowest contractors on the fastest possible spacecraft, how do you find a woman willing to do that? That isn't a problem anyone's talking about. All the engineering problems are currently seen publicly as the greatest hurdle. And I think there continues to be a stereotype that if you just find the right smart enough person, they're not going to have any psychology issues. You can lock them in a closet for over a year to send them to a world that they can't really walk around on and potentially know that their DNA is getting blasted apart. They'll do it for the sake of going. I mean, look at what Mars One did. They put out a form online and asked, do you want to go to Mars? And yeah, I think that there is the bias that if you can hire just the right people, you don't have to worry about the psychology. And there is a whole lot of tunnel vision, ignoring the issues of radiation because it's easy to work on building the spacecraft, and there are people very quietly in the background trying to solve the radiation program, and they're just not coming up with solutions. This is my greatest concern, is there's going to be a whole big push of, hey, look, we finally have the rockets. Hey, look, we finally have the ability to go to Mars. Let's shovel a human onto this spacecraft, and it's going to be a death sentence due to terrible ways of dying from cancers triggered by radiation.
Space is trying to kill you.
Every day. Can we have a happier question?
On that happy note, actually, I'm going to turn it back over to Clinton. Pamela, where can they find you?
I am Starstrider, spelled with a Y, just about everywhere, so check it out online. And if you want to help us do science and learn science, check out CosmoQuest X. X is where the science is.
Awesome. Thank you, Pamela. Thank you.
May we have another 14 years at least.
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Okay, I'm going to do a variant on our last story because we're running out very short on time. So Bonnie's going to fill in some words. for me from things that have been said this evening for our Mad Lib story, read to us by Mr. Danny Hillcrest. Once upon a time, there was an admiral named James T. Kirk. He was bravely courageous, especially when it came to putting out musical songs. He had two best buddy friends, Spock and Bones McCoy. Bones was famously famous for saying the catchphrase, he's...
Self-published.
Jim. And Spock said, live long and...
Swallow.
One day, to cheer up Jim on his birthday, they all decided to go out for a ride in Kirk's spaceship, the Enterprise. I guess Avis and Hertz gave a hard pass on that product placement. They decided to take along a bunch of other friends too. For some reason, Spock and Saavik took time to gossip about Kirk. Saavik was all, he's so...
Hickenlooper.
Meanwhile, on the planet where they shot Dune or something, Chekhov did this whole breaking and entering on some dude's beach house. Well, the dude, Mr. Rourke Khan, came home and found Chekhov trashing the place. He was kind of upset. He looked at Chekhov and said, I never forget a...
Rap song.
Then he put a bug in Chekhov's ear. No, really, I don't mean like that expression. I mean, he put a bug in his ear. And Khan said, where can I...
Expand.
Captain Kirk. And Chekhov said, what? I can't hear you. You put a bug in my ear. Even meanwhile, the Nat on space station's Dr. Carol Marcus was doing sciencey things. Her son was there too. Clearly, even in the 23rd century, it's not what you know, but who you know. But still, go women scientists. Anyway, she got this weird message from Chekhov and decided to slide into her old boyfriend's DMs by calling Kirk to tell him, Jim, someone is trying to...
Compose.
Genesis. Yeah, that game console made a comeback in the future. So, Kirk decided that he was going to go cruise by Dr. Marcus's house and, check up on her. But before he got there, that con guy carjacked Chekhov's ship and showed up on Kirk's spaceship front door. And he gave Kirk the silent treatment. Uhura was all, there's no response to our...
Consequences.
Admiral, Kirk was really confused. I can understand why. Then Khan attacked the Enterprise, so Kirk decided to trick Khan. He knew the pin number digits that would set off the car alarm on Khan's ship. But Spock was worried. He said, assuming he hasn't changed the...
Passenger pigeon.
He's extremely...
Confused.
Oh boy, I'll tell you that right now. Kirk fired laser phasers and Khan drove away, putting his starship in neutral and coasting downhill. Science! And Kirk headed for Dr. Marcus's place. When he got there, Dr. Marcus and the kid were gone, which is good because Kirk totally forgot that he was behind on paternity checks, and he said he left his wallet in his other pants, which no one believed because no one of their clothes don't have any pants in their pockets. So they figured out they would go to went down to her panic room on the planet. So they Twilight sparkled down inside the planet, but then Khan sparkled away the Genesis system, which was in some kind of weird promo packaging thing. Then he took off, trapping everyone inside the planet, and Kirk screamed...
Cuss words.
Wow.
Okay, and you could hear that in space. So that whole in space no one can hear you overact isn't true at all. Then Spock called Kirk on his old-timey flip phone and said, if we go by the book...
Podcasting friends.
Would seem like...
Stock music.
Then he swung by with the Enterprise and picked everyone up. It's kind of what Enterprise does. Then there was this big space battle. The two ships went into a space cloud. There was thunder and lightning. It turns out space is really loud. Then Khan blew up the Genesis system in the promo packaging. I guess he figured since Kirk opened it, it had lost its collectible value. Anyway, the Enterprise got away, but Spock was nuked. He was his own Chernobyl thing before it was cool. Kirk was sad, but Spock said the...
Groceries.
Of the many outweigh the needs of the...
Astronomer.
They shot Spock out of the Enterprise in some kind of Tupperware thing, and it landed on a planet. Then, as we headed back to the stars, we heard Ghost Spock tell the famous monologue dialogue from Star Trek.
Which. What am I looking for?
I don't have that part here.
Blank.
Well, trust me, we're out of time anyway. So, why am I still doing the voice? I don't know, but you can find me, Clinton, at Comedy4Cast, all one word with the number 4.com. And you guys?
We're at chuckchat.com/Technorama. And want a special thanks to our guests, Amy J. Murphy and Pamela Gay.
Yeah.
Dr. Pamela Gay, sorry. Thank you. Thank you to everybody who attended today. It's been a real treat. I always appreciate it when people show up.
Yeah.
And don't forget to rate us on the app.
Yes.
Thank you.
Wait.
What?
101.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Give us the big binary high five.
101.
There you go.
And don't tell Charles about the floor, please. Don't do it.
The chair.
Yeah.